Now we got to go to Malcolm X approach. Now hey, Martin Luther King, I'm sorry, the love ain't working right now. You can't talk about love with a people that don't know what love is. That's not how that works. I can't explain to you how outer space looks if you ain't never experienced it. It's not gonna work. So how do you speak love? How do you speak peace with a people that don't know what that means? They never demonstrated throughout their history of love and peace. You can't. So what's the language they know? I'm just saying, what is the language that they speak? I'm not talking their vernacular. What language does Israel speak? I'm just saying, sometimes you gotta speak their language. Hey, thank you for clicking this video. Just to let you know, this is a clip from my previous live stream that I did. Just want to let you know I go live every Sunday through Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time. And if you don't know what time that is, go ahead and Google that so you can meet me and have a conversation on my next stream. Once again, I appreciate you clicking this video. Now let's enjoy the video. A little context, because we're going to be talking about Sabby's abs. Going one-on-one, which is needed. We need to hold each other accountable, even if you agree or disagree, or if you love this individual. If you have a disagreement with this person, it is okay to hash it out. We learn something. I'm pretty sure you guys are going to learn something. That's what is needed in this community, okay? So a little context to kind of get to the point of what they're going to be talking about. In America, we had Martin Luther King. And if you guys don't know him, stop this stream, stop this video, and go read a book, okay? But Martin Luther King, he was the face of the nonviolent protest. Once again, showing that black folks, we have this thing called respect, self-respect, and we have this thing called love, and we're not going to use violence against our enemies. He was the face of that. Once again, equal rights. He fought not just for black folks, he fought for everybody, because that's what black folks do. And then last, like he knew how to message. He knew how to speak to the hearts of people, which is important, because sometimes this head gets into the way. And sometimes you need to speak to the morality within people, which is hard. Because like I said, circumstances, perspectives, of opinions, hatred, and your mind and your ego can get into the way of what you know is morally right. Okay, so he knew how to channel that to people, which is needed. On the other hand, on the other side, we have somebody like a Malcolm X. This individual, the ballot and the bullet. This is my short, sentence for that phase of what Malcolm X was trying to teach people. Vote for freedom if possible, but be ready to fight if denied. To sum it all up, that's what Malcolm X stood for. He, unlike Martin Luther King, he fought for black self-determination and a reliance by any means necessary. He wanted black communities, he wanted black folks to fight for their dignity and their right to live. And if we needed to use violence, hey, that's a way to communicate with people. And Malcolm X understood that. And last, he knew how to speak to the minds of people. Once again, if you can break this, you can break anything. And sometimes tapping into that fear will get people to act right. You know that whole saying, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face? Yeah, everybody can be a racist. Everybody can play Nazi on the internet. But when you get checked, when you get punched in your face, I guarantee you that racism, that hatred might go on somewhere. And Malcolm X, he understood that. Now, my point with all this is, when it comes to Israel and the genocide that they're continually doing, we're going to watch an update on what they just did a day ago, depending on when you're watching this. The whole Martin Luther King approach has expired. The whole love and peace and trying to understand and trying to come to a resolution, that has expired. Now, in my opinion, we need the Malcolm X approach. There is no second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh chance that we need to continue to give Israel. There are no special people. There are no special to me. Because if they feel like they can kill people with no sense of responsibility, that is a problem. Because what's stopping them from doing that to anybody else? So once again, it's a time and a place to be nonviolent, to sit here and show love through strength. But at the same time, when that doesn't work, we need to try something else. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. All right, let's go ahead and watch this update by CNN.
We start with the latest Israeli attack on a Gaza hospital. Well, dual strikes on the Nasser medical complex in Khan Yunis killed at least 20 people, including journalists, according to Gaza health officials. This video showing the chaos in the aftermath of the first strike. Now, the IDF claiming it, quote, does not target journalists as such, and saying the military chief has instructed an inquiry into the attack. Israel also striking targets in Yemen after Houthi rebels there fired a new type of missile at Israel. Paula Hancock's following developments for us here in Abu Dhabi, and she joins me now live. Let's start with the hospital strike. What more do we know about that?
Well, Becky, this was a double strike by Israel on the Nasser hospital. This is in Khan Yunis. It's in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. Now, we know that after that first strike targeted the fourth floor of the hospital, we understand that there were emergency workers, health workers and journalists who all rushed to the scene. Now, we have footage that we see, it was also played on live television, showing those individuals on a damaged staircase trying to retrieve casualties, one holding up a damaged video camera to show the journalists' presence. And then just minutes later, there was a second strike. Now, we understand that this was more deadly than the first, and this is the one that did kill many journalists and emergency workers who were on the scene at the time. At least 4 journalists have been killed. They were really the backbone of the footage that was coming out of Gaza for a number of international media outlets. One worked for AP, one for Reuters, one for Al Jazeera, another was freelance. As you know, Israel does not allow international journalists into Gaza, so we heavily rely on our Palestinian colleagues to be able to get these images out to us, and 4 have been killed in this particular incident. Now, we also understand from the civil defence that one emergency worker was killed whilst trying to retrieve casualties from the first strike as well. Israel's response has been that they do not target journalists as such. They say that they will have an initial inquiry as soon as possible, also saying that they can... Once
again, do not hold your breath for them to come up with any information or any, accountability whatsoever, killing emergency staff, killing people in a hospital. Like, how low can you really go? How low do you need to go for people to stop making any excuse for these people? All right, now Let that be a foundation to this conversation here. And then you would kind of understand why Cornell West, like as much as he loves people and tries to bring the humanity out of people, sometimes that is not enough. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Yes, that's true. But I think it's not that I believe somehow there's good there. There's a potential for people to change. That's what I'm holding on to as a Christian and as someone who is trying to resist.
So I think that, and I want to compare the two, right?
Sure.
So when we talk about people having the potential to change, at any point in time, if Israelis in Israel want to walk away from the Zionist ideology, want to walk away from that hateful rhetoric and teaching that the Palestinian people are not human, calling them animals, taking their homes in the West Bank, they can do so. They can even leave Israel if they want to get away from all of that. The Palestinian people cannot leave Gaza. Mm-hmm. They are trapped. They are caged in. At any point in time, any of them in Israel could have spoken out and can still speak out against what is happening to the Palestinian people. They don't want to because they don't want them there. So I've been a firm believer in people being able to change as well. When this comes to this particular situation, they are not making any efforts or any type of moves to show that they want to change, to show that, okay, maybe I want to listen to the other side. They don't. And to prove my point, you have Ethiopians that also live in Israel. The Ethiopians in Israel have decided to go along with the oppressors and the occupation so that they're not beneath the Palestinians, even though they're not on equal footing as the Israelis either.
All right, let's pause there. Once again, if you guys want to see this entire debate, we're not going to watch the entire thing. This is like, damn near an hour. We'll be here for like an entire day because this is substance here. We can talk about this all day. So if you guys want to watch the full debate, it's just right there. But we're just going to watch, a small portion of it. But she makes a point, and it's American history. Once again, people that normally would speak out on things like this, they feel like they can't for whatever reason. Just like the Ethiopians that live there, which I was surprised by that. But once again, they have to play along. They have to go along with this genocide so they can feel like they're better than other people. You see what I'm saying? Like, that is in its own way cowardice and deserves no respect. If you're looking at a situation and your response is, let me make sure I'm better off than these people, you're just as evil. That's simple.
They are willing to kill the Palestinian people so that they aren't lower than them, even though Israel has come in and Israel sterilized Ethiopian women against their will so that they would not continue to reproduce. It's very clear there's racism towards them as well. Chris Smalls made it very clear when he came onto the show that when he was in the prison, he said most of the people that he saw that was locked up in there were Ethiopians and Filipinos, which was a new one to me. But it's very clear. This is a genocidal, oppressive, hateful state. And the way that I see it, if at any point in time they wanted to change, they could have walked away from that a long time ago. They don't want to. And I think for me, it's just, I'm done. And I'm sorry to say it this way, but I'm very, very firm about this. I cannot be willing to believe that they have some type of humanity because they don't. And it's just when they could have said something even before October 7th, when they were stealing people's homes in the West Bank, when they were burning houses down and taking their land. They said nothing. They watched and they let it happen. They cheered it on. So I don't think there's any humanity there with them. And I think that what we need right now at this point in time, We need a radical form of politics that is not afraid to go up against the Zionist entity, that is not afraid to shut it all down. This is not a kumbaya moment. And I know that you like to look for love and peace and things, but at this point in time, I would say it's love and peace that got us in this direction. Israel should have been.
Hey, once again, I wouldn't say it's because of the love and peace, because if you look at the history of Israel and how they've been handling that entire area against the Palestinian people in other groups in that area, it's never been no love and peace. But she is right. Now we need action. Now we need to hold Israel accountable somehow, some way. There's no pretty please. There's no, okay, let's see, let's figure something out. 2-state solution, 1-state solution, none of that. I'm sorry. Now we got to go to Malcolm X approach. Now hey, Martin Luther King, I'm sorry. The love ain't working right now. You can't talk about love with a people that don't know what love is. That's not how that works. I can't explain to you how outer space looks if you ain't never experienced it. It's not going to work. So how do you speak love? How do you speak peace with a people that don't know what that means? They never demonstrated throughout their history of love and peace. You can't. So what's the language they know? I'm just saying, what is the language that they speak? I'm not talking their vernacular. What language does Israel speak? I'm just saying, sometimes you got to speak their language.
Shunned a long time ago. JFK had the right idea when he said that he wanted to question this nuclear weapons that they were building in Israel, when he wanted to push back against that. I just think that now is not the time for that. Now is not the time to say, let's sit back and see if they want to change. Now is the time to shun Israel for what it is, and anybody who believes in that Zionist rhetoric. I think that's what we need. We need a radical form of politics. I said the same thing right now with Zora Mandami. He ran saying one thing, and now he's starting to backpedal too, because even Bernie Sanders came to him and told him cooling on the Israel rhetoric. There is a genocide taking place. And I keep hearing all these people trying to make excuses for what is happening. I keep hearing people trying to make it seem like Israel, that we should give some type of support towards this genocidal state. And the reality is, this is not just a Netanyahu issue. It's Zionism. It's the teachings. It's what they believe. It's what they want. And from my experience, what I have learned is that even if you say, okay, well, let me try to talk to them, which people have done, Max Blumenthal has done, right? Professor Morandi has done. They've tried these things over and time again in the past to try to get them to understand what you are believing is a racist, supremacist ideology. They don't want to hear it.
No, I hear what you're saying, but first I want to be very clear, though, one, that I am in no way calling for a kumbaya moment whatsoever.
It feels like it.
Well, it shouldn't feel like it. I don't see what kind of evidence it is. You see my voice, my body, my time, my energy, raising voices with all kind of threats coming at me for the last 10 years, and you call that kumbaya? There's nowhere in the God's heaven that's kumbaya. None whatsoever. The kumbaya is thinking that somehow the only way of talking is having some nice little Thanksgiving dinner together. That's kumbaya. When somebody's out there taking risks, cutting against the grain, raising their voices, when I'm the advisor for the Student for Justice in Palestine at Harvard, just like I was for the Kuumba singers, right? And I'm here, I see all the racist remarks of black students. I go to the administration and say I want more protection for the black students. I don't get too much. That we can't even find a room at Harvard for the Palestinian students, fighting for the Palestinian students. And then, of course, once the encampments are there, I'm there. And then it's the Jewish students who get the privilege for protection. I say, no, this is sick. This is hypocrisy, not simply as in the abstract, but because I've seen it for myself as an activist, as a participant. That's not kumbaya at all, my dear sister. Don't confuse talk about love with somehow it being a kumbaya, a strategy to fighting for justice. Fighting for justice means you put your body on the line the way you do and many others, but don't think that somehow kumbaya means you're not putting your body on the line. You're not speaking the truth. You're not pursuing justice with every bone in your body, every fiber in your body. No, not at all. I mean,
So, so once again, I respect Cornell West to the fullest, and I understand what he is saying. It is not a kumbaya the way that Sabby had put it. Okay, once again, I understand what Cornell West is saying. Cornell is not someone who's just sitting at home, just tweeting about some things. He's actually out there being the activist that he is. Now, him running for president definitely shouldn't have done that, but he is an activist for all people. He's always out there. So the thing that I guess I would disagree, and probably, if I can try to encapsulate what Sabby is saying, is when you're sitting here trying to find the silver lining within Israel and what they're doing, it almost seems like you're coming up with like an excuse in a sense, or like, hey, let's not go balls to the wall right now. Like there are people, like, I understand it and I get it. I'm a Christian man myself, and I always try to see the God within people, but sometimes, just knowing history, there is just hateful people out there, whether you like it or not, whether you're a Christian or a Muslim or don't believe in anything. Like, some people are just hateful, and that's it. That's in and out. That's how they were raised, and that's how they're going to die. It is no second chances for some people. That's just how they are. So once again, you can't sit here and wait for them to have a change of heart. You can't sit here and wait for them to get tired of killing people, and now they want to, come to some sort of peace agreement. No. At some point, good people around the world need to speak up, and action needs to happen. And once again, this is not a Jewish thing. This is not just a particular Israel thing. This goes for anyone and everyone who thinks killing people for little to no reason is justifiable in any sense. That simple.
I mean, or we can put it this way. Let's put it this way, that look at the history of black people in terms of 90-some% of white folks supporting slavery. Now, do you think Frederick Douglass was kumbaya just because he was a Christian and he was calling for love tied to justice? No, they got a bounty on his head. You think Ida B. Wells Barnett was a Christian and she's calling for kumbaya? No, they got a bounty on her head against Jim Crow, right? So that kumbaya does not mean, talking about love does not mean kumbaya at all, but it's still different. And here I disagree with you. When you say there's no humanity where people are oppressing folk, I think you downplay just how vicious human beings have been and are to each other. They're still humans when they do that. They're not humane, I agree, but they're still humans. If you read out of humanity all of the people who have participated, been complicitous with structures of oppression, there's not too many left, my dear sister. Not at all.
But that's the point. That's the point, Dr. West. And this is where the whole allyship comes in. And this is something I had to learn. Like, I had to learn this myself. I used to believe, and I've said it before on the show multiple times, I used to believe, like, no, we could just, just work with anybody and figure all that other stuff out later. I used to believe that. But then I had my own experience with that. And what I understand is people have to come correct. One of the things that I learned from the Black Panthers, from Fred Hampton in particular, when he decided to collaborate with the Young Patriots, with the Young Lords, in particular with the Young Patriots, he told them that they had to denounce their racist ways first. And not everybody agreed. Not everyone in the Young Patriots was on board for that. Not everyone in the Black Panthers was on board, from what I understand, with this coalition building. So some people left, right? But the point that Fred Hampton made is that how are you have to have some type of respect for me as a person.
Yes.
And they don't. They don't have respect for the Palestinian people. They don't have respect for, and we showed it on this show. They don't have respect for Black people either. And what I'm saying is, I think, and when we look back through history, if we wanted to compare the two, if we looked at Martin Luther King and we looked at Malcolm X, when I was younger, when I was growing up, I was taught that Martin Luther King had the right ideology and he was the peaceful one and that was the way to go. But as I got older and I did my own research, I look back on things and I realized that I think Malcolm X had the right ideology. And even Martin Luther King later on started to realize maybe I didn't go about it the right way. Maybe the peaceful idea was not the thing to do.
All right. So that is a very, very interesting points that she made. Now, one, when it comes to any sort of peace and love, like I said before, like it has to be that mutual respect, or at least that understanding and seeing the humanity in the other person, like seeing that they are a person just like you. They are nothing less, nothing more. They're just like you. That's like basic foundational stuff right there. If you think your enemy is less than human, like animals or, ants that you easily step on when you go outside, when you're going to work, you see ants, you just start stomping on them. You don't think twice. You don't be like, oh, these are humans. No, you just do what you got to do. So if human beings see other humans like that, there is no communication. There's no conversation. There is no talk because they see them less than. So that's a good point. Like, how are we supposed to do this love thing? How are we supposed to do this peace thing if they don't even see them as humans? That's a good point. And then to her Malcolm X and Martin Luther King analogy here, or not analogy, but their perspectives. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I think she's wrong. Not wrong, but just wrong-ish, if that makes sense. One, Martin Luther King, before he died, he did express some anguish that maybe he led his people into a burning building. I get that. But he was ready. Just looking at history. He had guns. He had money. He was ready. So he wasn't just all, extremely peace and love. But he understood maybe he had been leading his people the wrong direction. But Malcolm X, before he died, when he went to the Mecca, and he realized that all people worship Allah, not just Black folks. It was white folks, Asian folks who worshiped Allah. And I wish they wouldn't have killed old boy, but I want to believe he started to feel like he can actually network with other races. I wish I would have been able to see that, but they took him from us. But that's America history. But once again, when it comes to these different types of, tactics, the Martin Luther King or the Malcolm X, use either as necessary. Not every situation deserves a Malcolm X approach, and not every situation needs a Martin Luther King approach. So I think you can do both. It's not always one or the other. So, but hey, once again, she makes a good point.
Martin Luther King believed that even the people were sitting up there and bashing them in their heads, sticking dogs on them, hosing them down. And he believed we got to do this in a peaceful way while they were getting the crap beaten out of them. And Malcolm X took a different strategy. And I do believe this is why in schools we were taught that Malcolm X was militant and his strategy was not the right one. But in the end, Malcolm X, he was trying to tell people, no, we are at a point right now where we need radicalism. I just do not feel like trying to find a way to look for humanity and people who are pro-genocide is going to get us in the right direction that we need to go in. And I feel like we have moved in a way to try to be peaceful, and I feel like it hasn't really gotten us far. And that is my big concern. How did we get here? How did we get here to this point where Israel was allowed to do what they do, where they're allowed to genocide a whole group of people, even though the world protested against it? How did we get to this point?
Hey, once again, great point, and that is the $1 million question. And once again, I don't want to say that I feel bad for not knowing what was going on. Like, it is out in the forefront now. That's simple. What Israel has been doing just didn't start October 7th. This has been going on even before I was born. Okay. Now it is out in the forefront. And once again, Cornell Rest, intelligent leader for the black community and other communities. But once again, you can't explain humanity to people who are not acting humanely. Like, that's you can't do that. So once again, smart guy, but I would have to say he wrong on this one. All right, guys. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? It is about that time. So once again, I don't see any other comments, so it kind of just disappeared. So, yeah, tell me what you guys thought.
Let's see how you do under pressure. Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Hey, ain't no errors, baby. It's a new era. I wake up early, feeling rich like I'm Kesha. I get to the paper, boy. Extra, extra.